What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of our review of season 1 of The Wheel of Time. I'm Chip.
I'm Brittany.
And if you're new here, please make sure you go back and check our other episodes for the reviews of episodes 1 through 6. Also, letting you know that this is not an initial review. We have seen these episodes a few times now, and we're giving you our thoughts on each episode as we go along. Also, I've read the books multiple times. Brittany has not.
I'm a non-book reader.
And we're giving you our thoughts based off of those two perspectives. So, without any further ado, let's get right into what was the best cold open of the season. And that is the scene of what is essentially Rand's birth. I mean, from a book reader perspective, I was blown away. But I want to hear what you thought first.
Yeah, I mean, as a non-book reader, you're completely blown away. I mean, it's this beautiful white snow-covered mountain, and you see this woman who's obviously pregnant. She's running. You can tell something's going on. She gets attacked by these men, and she has to fight. And the fight scenes are amazing. And I will say that this is my third time seeing this particular cold open. And in the first two times, it's like super fast and everything's happening. This time, it felt like way more intense. It felt a little slower because I kind of knew what was happening. And it's an intense scene. You know, it's incredible. It's so good. It's shot so well. Everything is so good.
Yeah, I think it's the best scene of the entire series. Far and away, in my opinion. And it's not just because of how well it's done, like you just said. It's, you know, it's well acted. It's well, you know, the choreography, the camera angles, everything is really good. But it's the story for me that really does it. It's our first time really seeing an Aiel, and the ferocity at which that she fights with is amazing. And then it's even deeper too, because again, if you're a book reader and you've read it, the whole story, you know who this person is, you know what's going on, but it's not something that we ever really see in the books. Again, it's something that's kind of alluded to, but they brought to life on the show, and I think they did it perfectly. You know, again, a lot of people were upset from the book reader community that she had her veil down when she was fighting, which Aiel do not do. And Tom Maryland explained that in one of the other episodes. But, again, I think that's a nitpick. One, she's giving birth, and she had her veil up initially, and now she sits down to give birth, pulls it down to breathe, and she gets surprise attacked. Yes, most Aiel would reveal themselves at the first opportunity available, but this is a show, and, again, if you... No, I don't really want to spoil. So spoil here if you haven't read very far in the story. We know that she's not really an Aielman. So it makes sense that she would just revert to her initial training and just fight without the veil up. So people that nitpick that, it bothers me. I think you're crazy for doing that. But in my opinion, that scene it made the whole series for me. Honestly, I was so hyped after that scene. They could do no wrong, in my opinion.
The scene is great. It's, I think for book readers and non-book readers, it was just an amazing cold open. And I have heard the nitpicks, like, obviously, like, I'm here for the drama, like, in general. So, like, I've, heard other people talk about this, and some people say, like, oh, like, this is, this fighting couldn't actually be done by, like, someone who's 9 months pregnant and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's a fantasy show.
Yeah, get over it.
It's not like an actual like history lesson or anything. So I thought it was amazing, and it was super fun, and it was a great cold open. I really hope that they are going to be pulling out the stops like this next time.
Yeah, and I mean, it really what it did for me was make me super excited for when we actually get to really meet the Aiel and go into their culture, because if it's anything like that, we're going to really like it. So then that leads us into the main part of the story, the main opening of the story. Our characters are now in the Ways, and they are trying to travel to the Eye of the World. The Ways did not look exactly like I thought they would. I thought they would be more looking like a man-made type of structures as you're walking around. and it's, bridges connecting islands. So I thought it would look a little different, but I will say it looked pretty cool. And the darkness was super oppressive. Like the light didn't go very far, which is what you want. And, I thought overall this was a pretty cool representation of the ways. What did you think?
So I gotta say, I didn't love the ways. I have heard people always say that they are fine with it. I thought they looked a little studio / CGI for me, but that's okay. It was fine. They were fine. I like that it wasn't too dark when they filmed inside there. So there's a lot of light on each character when they film. So I thought they were fine.
I agree that it does look a little manufactured, but overall I think it kind of captures what it's supposed to. It's a dark place. It's not somewhere you want to stay too long.
Right.
That's for sure. But there were some cool things. They're traveling along. Perrin is able to see the guide stone way ahead of everybody, so that's pretty cool. Showing that he has that enhanced vision. And one little detail I liked that they've been doing in every episode or multiple episodes is anytime something bad's about to happen or Padon Fane is around, you hear that little whistle. And it's not something that you pick up on the first time you watch it. I really didn't hear it at all. And now every time he's around or something bad's about to happen, you hear that little whistle.
Right.
And I love that touch. I think that's a really cool touch for the thing.
And now I know when I hear it too, I'm like, oh, something's going to happen.
Right.
And so that's kind of fun to be looking out for if you're a non-book reader or a book reader.
Right.
Listen out for that whistling because it's something interesting is going to happen.
But yeah, one of my favorite things about this was Loyal giving us a little bit of the background and understanding of what makes the ways such a treacherous journey, and that is Ma-Chen Shin, or the Black Wind, which is directly from the books, obviously, but it's a little different in the show than it is in the book. I like the way they did it. I think it looks cool, but it's definitely in the book it's described more of as like a smoky wind type deal, and it's a lot more vulgar in the books than it was in the show. Like, it's not telling you your worst fears or everything you don't want to hear. It's like literally talking about, eating bones and stuff like that. It's really not good. So I understand why they changed it, and I think that it's a good change. In the show, Loyal explains that if you use the power, it's going to draw Ma-Chen Shin. Now, in the book, Ma-Chen Shin's just roaming around, and it's going to find you regardless. So the amount of time that you're in there, the more of a chance you're going to come across it. That's kind of how it works in the books. But I like this change because now, they're at the guidepost. It's all torn up by presumably Trollocs. And then they get attacked by Trollocs and somebody channels. So that immediately draws Ma-Chen Shin. And now it's like, well, we got to get out of here ASAP. So they got to find the closest door. That whole scene where they're at the way gate trying to leave and they're confronted with the wind, I thought was really cool. It was a great way to show us each character's like fears and what they don't want to happen or whatever, and it injected a lot of character building for the people.
Yeah, I have to agree. I liked that Ma-Chen Shin kind of went to everyone's sort of insecurities or their fears. I think it made it more of like a human journey for me than just being like a scary thing. It made it more like this is really taking it out on these people and that kind of like what's going on with them. And so I enjoyed that a lot. I do wanted to discuss a couple of things that happen also in the ways is that you start to see, because Matt didn't come along with them, that discussion of Matt between Lan and Moraine and then also with the four. So Lan is telling Moraine like, Matt didn't come, like what if he's the guy? And she's like, there's evil inside of him. We're not going to let him near the eye of the world. I don't know. How did you feel about this from a book reader's perspective?
Well, obviously, it's a rewrite. I don't really like a lot of what they had to do because, Matt wasn't there. I just feel like it was forced because Matt wasn't there. I feel like they just had to make something up and, it is what it is.
And maybe that is a discussion that everyone had to have but no one was really there. So they're kind of like talking like Matt didn't come. He like left us. He's probably going back to get the dagger. It's like Rand is the only one that was really with him during this whole dagger debacle. And he's the only one saying, you don't understand, like, what happened to him. And, like, for all the times we didn't get a lot of, like, time between the group, the fact that the time between the group is going to be shitting all over Matt was a little bit much for me. It was fine. Like, I understand it. Like, friends do this. Like, that's just how it works. But I think for the lack of not having that throughout the season, and then now we're going to just, like, talk about one person that's in the 5. Tell me what you feel in the comments.
Exactly. Agree or disagree, let us know down below. Obviously, that scene ends with what is a very cool shot of Nynaeve exploding in her power once again, and I really like the way they're doing this. She's using an immense amount of power, which is impressive, but she's doing it instinctively and only when she's pissed, which is exactly the way it is in the books. Like most of the time, her power in the books revolves around healing people, but I'm fine with the way they're doing this. I think it's awesome. It shows how powerful she is, but she has no idea what she's doing. It's just, oh, I need to do this because I'm pissed, and boom, it happens. So I like that. I thought it was cool.
When Nynaeve kind of, like, does her burst of energy, like, it's almost, like, so much for her to, like, carry. It's like a load that she is, like, pushing out. So her hands are down, and then you have, like, Moraine, like, doing her, like, dance. And I like love how, like, Moraine sort of, like, wields her power. It is, like, fantastic to watch. And it was, like, rewatching it, I was like, this is great. Like, this moment is so good. So I thought it was really fun. I agree.
So then they come out of the Waygate, and they're in the fortress city of Fal Dara. I really like this. You know, the whole setting is really cool. It's not how I would have pictured it. It's actually better than what I pictured it. And all the characters that you see there are just amazing. I love to see Uno and Lord Agilmar and all these people. And it gives us a lot of, again, more world building. Here's a new area that we're in, and this is the way these people look. They all have their top knots and their, warrior society. I loved it. I also loved how they show Agilmar's sister, who can use the power but isn't strong enough to be an Aes Sedai. I love they made that distinction.
Yeah, that was definitely
everybody.
for me. I was like, well, what does all that mean? So that was kind of interesting that she has the ring, but she doesn't have any sort of color. I do like that when Maureen asks her to do something for her, she's like, love the Aes Sedai, but, like, my study comes first.
I just love that they make the distinction that there are women that can use the power, but not everybody is strong enough to become an Aes Sedai. And I thought that was a cool way to like bring everybody into that fact.
We meet Lord Agilmar, and he's an interesting character. He's a little paranoid.
Definitely.
Especially about the Aes Sedai. And believes that Moraine is trying to kind of tell him what to do and how to run his country. He came off a little abrasive.
I think that's true to the character.
Is that true to the character?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think it's true. I don't know if he would be like that. I think he would. It's true to the Borderlanders, He's like, they're very proud. And they don't want the Aes Sedai coming up there trying to tell them what to do.
Right. But Maureen says, I'm only coming here with a warning. And this warning is that the Trollocs have made it into the ways. And this, to him, redirects his mind. And he's like, okay, this is serious. And sends people to go monitor that.
All right. So there's a couple more things that go down in this episode. We're going to go through them kind of point by point. It's not exactly linear through the episode. But the first thing that I want to talk about is meeting Min. And I think, again, perfect casting, and the way they portrayed her ability is a lot like what I would have pictured it in the books. Now, again, in the books, they kind of picture it as like a floating cloud above your head with pictures in it. This is way cooler, and the scene or the speech where she talks about the sparks is literally directly out of the book. So I loved that. I thought it was a really cool scene. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene. I really like Min. I think also there's like a much needed, like, some comedic relief, and I really liked Min's personality. She kind of has this, I don't know, she just has a way of making you sort of just like excited to see what she has to say, and she's kind of got like a spunk and like a whole thing. So I really liked her as a character. She was great. Her visions were really interesting. So she sees them all with this like gold starry thing around them, kind of saying that they are connected. So we're getting more of that. Like these people are connected. They're meant to be together, which was nice. And she sees that Perrin has yellow eyes and blood on his mouth, and that the girls have gold like halos around them, gold crowns around their heads, and that Rand is holding a baby. So all really interesting moments. And she cannot know who the dragon is. She doesn't know. But she does tell Moraine that the Amerlin is going to be your downfall, which was interesting.
So yeah, I agree. I think all that stuff is exactly right. I'm interested to see whose kid that was.
Right.
That Rand was holding.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of ways that the Amerlin could be Moraine's downfall from the book. So it's like I'm trying to see what that's going to be. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. The other scene that I thought was really good, or the other kind of storyline that we get, is Lan going to meet what we think is his family, and him being tracked by Nynaeve, and he kind of invites her in. Now, this is a great scene because Lan is in there eating. She's kind of spying through the window, and then out of nowhere, Lan's right behind her. And I mean, that to me was like, if that's not Lan, I don't know what is. Because really, that's how he is in the books. He kind of just pops up, and you're like, oh shit, Lan's here. But he ends up inviting her in, and we get to see a very human side of Rand that you never really get to see in the book, and I really like that. I thought it was great.
Right. Actually, I like when he says, so are you coming in? Because Nynaeve felt a little embarrassed. And I almost felt like that was like are you going to come into my life? Or I'm inviting you into who I am as a person. And maybe like I'm just romantic or something, but I really liked that moment. And I thought it was great. And so she goes in and meets the family. I also loved the music during this moment. I don't know, weird kind of ad that I liked it. But she gets to meet the family. And one of my favorite lines is when the guy who we're assuming is like a father-like figure to Lan is like, she's so beautiful, talking about Nynaeve. And Lan says, oh, I haven't noticed. And I just thought that was a really cute comedic moment, but also just sort of their banter, and I loved that.
Yeah, I agree. It was all around great scene.
Yes.
And it leads to Lan and Nynaeve going back to his room for a little after-hours activities, which, again, it's a little fast for me as a book reader. It takes a long time in the books for them to get there. But I'm glad it happened. I mean, again, it's a show. You got to get people roped in somehow, and this is a great love story that I don't hate seeing this early.
Right. And I also think like this is a 25-year-old, not, someone younger than that in this particular production of the show where, she's older and he's older and they are very much alike. And I thought it was fine timing. It might be a tiny bit fast, even for, I think, just casual viewers. It might be a tiny bit fast, but I'm okay with it and I like it. I think it was bound to happen at some point. So I like just get it out of the way.
Yeah, and then we get a lot of Lan backstory, which I really love. He tells about the Malkyr and how it was swallowed by the blight, and how he's supposed to be the king.
Right.
I love that.
So he was supposed to. So Malkyr is where Lan is from, and he was supposed to be a future king, which is why his father-like figure calls him Daishan. Nynaeve asks him, like, why would he call you that? And so Lan tells her the story about how he was supposed to be the future king of Malkyr, and his parents were killed, which also in this particular version of Wheel of Time, Nynaeve's parents were killed. And I kind of love that connecting of who they are as people, that they've both dealt with the same thing. And even in this particular moment, Nynaeve's kind of mad because she's like, well, now I understand why you like gave up your life to go fight for Moraine. And he's like, well, you also did that for these kids, the four. And so they both have this moment where they have replaced things in their life with protecting the people that they love and going through this. And so it was just a nice moment. Like, it was really, really great. I'm totally fine with it and how fast it was and everything. It was great.
The last plot point that you could talk about is Rand, Perrin, Egwene, and Nynaeve kind of having a discussion, and then that leads into Rand's kind of realization of what he really is. And The scene that kicks it off, though, Rand, Perrin, and Egwene love triangle.
Ugh.
Not my favorite.
Ew. If they were trying to fill up some space for the Matt disappearance, this was not it for me. It's already been a bit of a saga between Egwene and Rand that takes away from their characters, honestly. But now you're adding this Perrin thing, and the Black Wind tells him that maybe he killed his wife because he was really in love with Egwene. Like, it's a lot for me, and I just was not here for it.
Yeah, it kind of came out of left field for me.
It was weird.
I mean, again, rewatching it, they have been setting it up slightly.
They have, yes, definitely. But for what reason, I'm not 100% sure.
It just feels like they went back and forced it in because Matt wasn't there. That's what it feels like.
I don't know, but please take it out, and please never discuss it again.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be something that probably comes up again. I hope not. But
hopefully not.
So that whole scene, we can kind of just, again, I just want to forget about it, forget it happened.
But I think the bigger conversation in that scene is that Moraine has told them, look, we don't know who the dragon is, but so it's very likely, like, 3 of you will die, all of you will die. Like, we're not 100% sure. Basically, that's what she's saying. She's just like, well, if you go, you're going to die. And so they're kind of discussing, like, would we do this? Are we going to do this? Why should we do this? And so they're kind of all having this discussion.
And that's good. Yeah, not a bad scene.
That was fine for me. And Egwene sort of tells Nynaeve, like, are you not going because of Moraine? Or are you not, because you would do this no matter what for anyone else. I thought that was fine.
Yeah, I thought it was good to see Egwene kind of step up. And take charge a little bit because, again, in the book she does that a fair amount. She kind of puts the guys in their place a few times, and I think that was important, for her rather than Nynaeve to be the one saying, "Hey, we need to do this." But it leads to a bit of a frustration, again because the scene ends with the little love triangle thing. So Rand walks out in a huff and goes to shoot arrows, which, again, is great. Is a great callback from the books. That's like one of his things, how he calms down. He likes to shoot arrows. I really did like that. Egwene and Nynaeve reconcile, kind of. They end up in bed, and Rand wakes up in the middle of the night with this realization and these flashbacks of when he was taking his dad to Emmons Field, which this is a scene that I was so sad was not in the first episode.
Right.
But it makes sense why it wasn't. And it's one of those things that you could tell when they have time to, if they miss something that you wanted earlier, there's still a good chance that it could come back later. And there's a lot of things that I think they've missed that I do expect to come around later. So it made it seem like, okay, we're
still on the right path.
We're still on the right track.
Right.
Yeah, they added what we needed to add. And that whole scene was amazing because he comes out now and he's shooting the arrows right at the bullseye, and it's like he finally realizes, I am the Dragon Reborn.
Right. So I'm going to break down this scene a little bit more and just say, they have this fight. Rand does go out and he's shooting the arrows. He's not making any of them. He's not great at this. Egwene comes out. So Egwene and Rand are talking. She says, I really do love Matt, and I will be here for you. If you're the dragon, I'll be here for you. And he's like, I'll go to the White Tower with you. I think you should go do that. I'll be your warder.
This, to me, again, I get it because they're older and they're reconciling and they're in love or whatever, but I just don't know where they're going to go with this in terms of these two storylines, because they, in the books, they're not together and they're younger, so they do love each other in the way that a young kid would love a girl that he's the only girl he's ever known, whatever. This is a little bit more serious, and I'm like, how are we going to free these people up for the relationships they're supposed to have? And again, the only way I know that it's going to happen is Min mentions 3 beautiful girls, which is what it is in the book. So how are they? I'm just wondering how they're going to. What event is going to break these two up? Because it seems like we've broken up once. Oh, we're back together. We're going to break up again?
It's a lot of roller coaster that we've been on with these two. They're kind of not right for each other.
But that's what I'm saying is how I just can't. What's the fight going to be that's going to break them up now?
I don't know. I'm sure
if it has to do with Perrin, we're going to be very upset.
I'm sure it'll give me a major eye roll, but it'll be something. So Rand sort of can't go to sleep, and he flashes back to when his dad having the fever dreams, which you're saying is in the book.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's the scene that, again, a lot of people were like, how did they not put that in there? But now it makes sense why they put it where they did. And he immediately goes down to shoot arrows, and that's where it's like spot on every time.
Right. He's hitting the arrows. He realizes that he was the one who used the one power in the ways. When he was leaving the town with Matt, was able to break down a door with his strength. That wasn't, 3 people couldn't break down the door, and he did it. And so he's realizing that these moments might mean that he is the dragon. And also with the fact that Moiraine has sort of given them all this, if they all go, then they all could die, or 4 of them could die, or whoever. It's really putting that fire in Rand, saying, okay, well, I think I'm the dragon. I'm pretty sure. So he goes to Min. You can talk about this.
Yeah, so then he goes to Min to get confirmation, basically. And again, this scene, I love it because it is the first scene we get Min interacting with Rand, and it's exactly how I would have expected them to do it. She basically tells him the story of, his dad finding him on Dragonmount, which they then cut back to, which was awesome. Tam, they use that de-aging stuff, and it works. I mean, he couldn't even really recognize him.
I didn't personally, I wasn't a fan of that. I thought he looked like kind of older. It was weird. It
was weird, but it was cool to see that, he helps her be born. She immediately dies, and he decides he's going to take care of him. And that really is what seals it for Rand, is he's like, okay, I am the dragon. He makes the decision. He's going to go right now to tell Moiraine, and they can get a head start on everybody before they know they're gone. So that way he is saving the 3 that would die if they went,
right
with them, which is a great way to end the episode. And the way we end it is they're walking towards the Blight, and the Blight looks freaking fantastic. I mean, it is top notch. It's not anything what I would have thought, but it's way better than what I would have thought. It was a good moment for Rand, good character moment, and him and Moiraine masked the bond so she could leave. I mean,
it was a good ending, and I kind of want to add to is that I love that they did this cold open with this fight scene, because Rand as a character, and maybe in the book, I don't know, is not quite the guy you would imagine. I mean, he's very tall and and everything like that, but he's not necessarily very brave. He's not a fighter necessarily. We've never seen that part of him. So seeing that he comes from this person who is fighting all these people, it just makes him cooler, and you could see a growth in the future.
And then the last little touch that we want to touch on is the fact that Padan Fain makes his way out of the ways and is now in Fal Dara. And again, you just hear that whistle and he's around somewhere. So we'll see what happens to him next episode, but it's definitely going to be...
Yeah, and then Perrin sees him in the city.
Yeah, Perrin sees him in the city.
And they're like, he died. He died during the Trolloc.
Oh, he didn't die. He's still around. So we'll see. We got one more episode left in this journey. And,
right.
Again, how would you rate this episode, though?
I'm going to give this one a 9. I think it had a lot of good moments. This was my favorite episode of the series so far. So
yeah, I would give it, an 8.8 on my scale. Definitely the best episode of the year, of the season. Best cold open. A lot of good character development. The only reason it's not a 9 in my book is the Perrin, Egwene, Rand
yeah,
triangle.
I mean, you're right. That probably should take 5 points off for me. It should be a 5. But it was a good cold open. It was a good story. And outside of that, it was good.
Yeah, and for me, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they put that in there because there's no Matt. So
just never discuss it again. Let's move on and never discuss it again.
Well, one can only hope. Be sure to like and subscribe if you are enjoying the content. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our review of episode 8, the finale. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you later.